Hey guys, it's Frito here. Marvel Rivals Season 1.5 balance patch is going to be shaking up the meta. Season 1's balance was a little iffy, had some misses in it, but this patch looks a lot better. Also, the two new heroes that are going to be added, I'll be covering in a separate video. They as well are quite meta redefining, but onto the balance patch here. Captain America, he will be able to shield himself with Living Legend mid-leap. That's amazing for his survivability, yet just another tool for him to be able to sustain on an already very brawly character. Just for the fun factor alone, I think that makes sense. Like, why can't he shield mid-air? You get super vulnerable, and it really punishes you for misusing those cooldowns. So I'm a big fan of this change. Increase Vibranium Energy Saw's projectile speed from 60 meters a second to 80 meters a second, with ricochets ramping up to 100 meters per second, supercharged to 150. That is absolutely nuts. So you'll be able to actually gun things down, as well as just the speed of which of it landing. So being able to aim it better, as well as it being more devastating when it's bouncing around as well. I think Captain America getting some significant improvements there. Reduce the energy cost of Freedom Charge, the ultimate ability, down to 2,800. And remember, they already buffed it in the previous patch as well. Captain America getting some serious juice in this patch. Enhance Captain America's combat experience by separating Sentinel Strike from melee attacks. This is pretty interesting. Captain America will be able to use melee while his shield is thrown, or during team-up ability charged Aegis state to activate the first two hits of Sentinel Strike. Additionally, while airborne, using melee attacks will no longer trigger Super Soldier Slam. Okay, so a bunch of quality of life for the fluidity of his kit. So this means when you're jumping, you can melee without needing to use it as the same button, basically. So Captain America, he has both the melee button as well as his primary attack, and those kind of overlapped. Now that won't be the case. So if you are on a shield tank, and this is important because they are kind of targeting the shield tanks in this patch quite a bit, you often want to melee them because shield tanks are weak to melees. But Captain America would sort of waste his shield tosses because he's on the tank, so it's kind of going nowhere, and you have to kind of manage it a little bit better. Whereas if you're on that Doctor Strange, you can just keep punching him down while holding the shield tosses for when you're actually going to want to use them. Remembering the mechanic is you hit 2 melees, then you get 4 charges of a ranged attack, and basically this means you can use it when you want, as opposed to needing to use it immediately as soon as it comes available. So a lot of quality of life and straight up juice for Captain America. I'm a fan because I think he's a super fun character to play. Doctor Strange has reduced base health from 650 to 600, making him squishier. Keep in mind they're adding the Thing on this patch as well. So the Thing, the Hulk, Captain America, all these melee type characters really like punching through a shield. So Doctor Strange going to take a hit down in viability. Keep in mind, part of his strength is just in his overall flexibility. Having that portal gets you extra team fights or just extra pathing. So that alone is such a big power spike for him. I hope they don't tune down his numbers too much and overly balance it. This is where I start to get a little worried, because he already is, like, he's really good, but I don't feel like he's oppressive and anyone really minds how good he is. But that's just my opinion. A character that I do love playing, maybe because I'm a fan of the Guardians movies, I don't know. Groot's walls, Thornish wall placement range goes up from 15 to 18 meters, okay? That's utterly insane. I think Groot was a bit situational. In his good matchups, he could dominate and hard carry the game, but in his bad matchups, he's one of the more counterable tanks, partly due to his inflexibility on where he needs to take the fight. So with longer range on the Thornish walls, I said this in my reaction to Seagull video when he was talking about triple support, I think now you actually can get those walls deeper into the backline, because before that, 15 meters, you sort of were always going to be relegated to fighting the front line no matter what. Now, you'll be able to stretch those out a little bit farther and really command a bigger zone of influence and put down 2 Thornish walls onto a support and hit them with the nade, and before you know it, they're getting nuked. So the range increase on this is a targeting change, massively transformative to his playstyle. He'll be able to target backline characters and be more flexible in what he's going to be fighting. Groot's stats are kind of nuts, okay? Groot is a nuts tank. Very, very good. But there's just other tanks that are maybe a little bit more reliable and require less setup to get their value out. Magneto's changes is a bit of durability going down in replacement for some attack damage, increased iron volleys projectile damage from 35 to 40, which matters a bit, more ult charge, possibly some breakpoints matter on this, but metallic curtain, which is his wall of a shield that blocks, and I think some people don't realize this, blocks infinite damage from that side. I think because it makes noise when you shoot it, people think it helps to shoot it. It doesn't at all. You just block infinite projectile damage from that side, which is why characters like Punisher get destroyed so hard by Magneto, not to mention just the ultimate be able to eat projectiles, but having that tool that's even stronger than a strange shield, which has a limited health on it. Well, now Metallic Curtain's energy consumption goes from 50 a second to 65 a second, and its maximum duration goes down from 2 seconds to 1.5. So your ability to min-max it as well as full out hold it, there's bigger windows of exploitability on Magneto, and considering he was probably the top meta tank, this makes sense in a way, but I will say I think the devs are making some similar balance mistakes like Overwatch did in the past, where they look at the performance and they try to tune everything all at once without necessarily understanding why a specific character is overperforming. So when snipers went down and then medium range damage characters went up, as well as certain supports like Cloak and Dagger, well, Magneto was just good against all of those things. So while yes, I agree he was the top tank, but it's hard to know sometimes exactly which, if it's the chicken or the egg with this kind of thing. Not heavy-handed changes, just something to try to monitor as they continue to develop this game. Thor has removed the shared cooldown time after the duration of Awakening Rune ends. So Thor's mechanic is each ability is on a shared cooldown, including his big power-up, Awakening. So this means you'll be able to quickly get up to that next dodge out ability after the end of it, because already you're all in on Thor when you pop this ability. Like, you better be ready to either kill the things in front of you if you went in, or you're just sniping from range and you're safe anyway. Now this will be like an extra ability cast essentially of probably your dodge, right? So that will allow you to be a little bit more mobile on the battlefield, and as well just use the transform ability more aggressively, I'd say. Venom gets some interesting changes. Frenzied Arrival now at the point of contact as you slam into the ground will cause an inward knockback to put them towards Venom, to kind of trap them at closer range, which is important because you're comboing your abilities together to use your alternate fire and then your primary to work them down. So Venom is just better at diving things now, I'd say. And then his ultimate cost, Feast of Abyss, went down a little bit, and they said this in the dev update as well, that they want the support power to go down in the ult fight, and then some other characters to have ults maybe sooner than support. So as soon as these ults start to get super cheap, there's instances where the enemy won't have a support ult to counter it, and Venom's ult is one of the weaker ones. I think honestly in the previous meta he was okay, but you just use it as extra stats, extra life to be able to tank longer. You weren't really going to be able to kill much with it, but now if you get it a little bit faster on a certain tempo of the chaos of the fight, they might not have an answer, and it could actually be a fight winning ultimate. So that's it for the Vanguard changes. On to Duelist now. Black Widow increased the magazine capacity of Red Room Rifle from 8 to 15. Okay, the double is quite a significant buff. Not that I think it matters too much because, well, it's Black Widow. Enhanced the slow effect of Ectoplasma Explosion, her ultimate, on enemies from 80 to 55%. So they're significantly slowed now, and it already felt annoying to me, but now that's a lot. Additionally, it will apply a 15% vulnerability effect on enemies hit for 4 seconds. So I guess that's amp damage on those characters as well. So that means you'll be able to combo them up with your ult and follow up damage. Okay, well, maybe Black Widow's got an ultimate now. We'll have to see, because prior to that, I thought her ult was kind of a joke. Hawkeye has base health going up from 250 to 275, but reduced projectile damage of blast arrows from 20 to 15, while the spell field damage will be increased from 25 to 32. So a little bit less on the projectile damage, but more than before when it comes to the AoE. When they say spell field, that's what it is, the blast from it. Reduce the cooldown time of Crescent Slash from 15 to 12 seconds. Okay, that's a little helpful. Increase bow draw speed during the duration of Hunter's Sight, his ultimate ability, and raise the damage multiplier from 1.2 to 1.35. So just a slight uptick on Hawkeye, rearranging the power after they dropped his damage and lethality in the previous patch. Hela, the damage fall off of Night Sword Thorn 30 meters will be changed from 70% to 80%. So going up on that. I think this makes her either exactly or similar to how strong she was in patch 0.0, the season 0, I suppose, but the game around her has changed a lot, so it kind of makes sense. Hela was really losing a step in terms of her ability to contribute much after the game got much more brawly and sustain heavy. It was just too slow for Hela to contribute much. Now, okay, Iron Fist gets a series of interesting changes. They can look complicated, but I think the best way to just see this quickly is they're making him closer to Wolverine in some cases, where the major change here is he's going to be doing percentage damage based on 1.7% of the opponent's maximum health. But the base damage of all of his different strikes essentially goes down. I'm not going to read it all. He does certain combos. General damage goes down, but percentage damage goes up, which against tanks means he's going to be doing more. Keep in mind, that means targeting, especially I would say the shield tanks, as we've talked about before, becomes more effective. Increase the additional maximum health granted by Harmony Recovery from 50 to 150, but a new decay mechanism for the extra health has also been introduced. 1 second after the ability ends, the additional health will deplete at a rate of 25 health per second. Increase the maximum bonus health converted from damage blocked during Dragon's defense from 150 to 200, and increase the base health from 250 to 300. Iron Fist was quite good in season 0, but once the supports got really sustainable and stronger, he was kind of useless. But now he is more brawly in general. Some lower damage against some targets, but higher damage against others. I'm not sure how I feel about Iron Fist. I don't necessarily want him to be one of the best damage dealers, but we'll see what this ends up changing. I think as well, something to keep in mind, as they add new characters to this game, that changes things up a lot too. So I'm not always a big fan of when they try to overbalance, then add new elements, because it's a little bit kind of making too much change at once, where you're applying changes for the data you got from the last patch, but you add new characters that are going to shake it up anyway. But moving on to Iron Man, increased Unibeam's damage from 120 to 140, and the Overdrive version from 180 to 190. But importantly, the Hulk team up is getting nerfed, which we'll see later. So overall, Iron Man a bit better normally, but a little less lethal with the team up. Not sure how I feel about that either, because while on one hand, yes, the team up was way too good, but that's kind of the flavor of the game, right? So having more characters that are middling as opposed to the powerful team ups that you sort of build your comp around and your strategy, I'm not sure I want the game to be overly balanced, but that's just one man's opinion. I only saw my favorite game of all time die by trying to balance it too much. Magik. Decrease the damage dealt by Demon's Rage, her regular state, from 80 to 72 a second, and reduce the energy cost of Darkchild, the ultimate ability, down to 3,400. Demon's Rage is that little monster that she casts after doing one of her teleports and just gets her ultimate more frequent. So not sure the demon itself was at all breaking any of the meta. So I think Magic players will appreciate this, because if you're going to nerf anything on the kit, they would not want you to take away the combo potential. And ultimately, Demon's Rage is like a supportive style ability. You zone a little bit, farm ult. Once in a while, it's helpful, but really the juice in Magik is being able to do the ult fire, close the distance, combo, and then get out. That's what kind of defines this character as being a top pick at the moment. Mr. Fantastic, increase the spell field radius after landing from flexible elongation from 2.5 meters to 5. Additionally, flexible elongation will now feature a knockback effect, launching enemies outward within an area upon landing. The recharge time for a single use of flexible elongation will be adjusted from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. Next note is increase the damage of Brainiac Bounce, his ultimate ability spell, from 50 to 70. Increase the energy cost from 2,800 to 3,400. Additionally, a new damage decay mechanism has been introduced. Spell field damage will now begin to decrease starting at 3 meters and will reach a maximum reduction of 50 at 10 meters. Okay, so the flexible elongation patch note looks a little complicated. I think that one doesn't matter so much. Longer cooldown has a bigger area of effect spell radius, but the damage on it was so weak anyway. I don't know if that matters at all. The flexible elongation, I think, was stronger for using for a shield anyway, but now that it has a knockback effect, I think that adds another tool for Mr. Fantastic to crowd control enemies, because the best Mr. Fantastics are the ones that are managing the multiple effects that he has while brawling like a tank. So he can grab you with his alt fire, and now he's got flexible elongation to place you as well. So manipulating that frontline fight, I think, is more where the juice is. And I think it's a little strange that they increased the cost of the ult, because even with it doing 20 more damage, I still think it's really bad. Yeah, I think they're being a little safe with Mr. Fantastic, but people are still understanding what he does, and then maybe just adding another knockback is enough to make him more dominant than I think. But I think there's a very small percentage of the player base that's actually any good at this character, but better that they don't overstat a nuanced character like this, who's very difficult to play, and just let people kind of grind him out and get more skilled with him rather than just throwing way too much stats at him. Moon Knight gets 2 key nerfs to his ultimate here, where it's going to have a reduced falling speed and also correct the damage trigger logic for Hand of Khonshu, if I'm saying that right, I have no idea. The previous mechanism that dealt 75 damage when positioned at the center of the spell field has been removed. It increased the damage of each hit from 75 to 150, but I think there was like some double damage thing going on. So overall, you should be able to dodge this now, as opposed to it just instantly nuking you on a series of characters, but we'll see how that plays out. Scarlet Witch gained an additional 100 bonus health upon activating her ultimate. After the ability ends or is interrupted, this bonus health will decay at a rate of 50 a second. That seems fair. I think Scarlet Witch is low-key underrated, especially in the support meta, where a lot of the support characters just make everybody invulnerable, and you have the one burst damage ultimate other than Moon Knight that can do some damage, and gaining some bonus health means you can extend your face a little bit deeper towards the enemy with this ultimate that, granted, the cast time is forever, I will give you that, so they probably should be able to outplay it, but especially against engaging support ults, which probably isn't the way support players should use them, but they tend to just spam out their ult without much thought, and Scarlet Witch can definitely punish that. Spider-Man has reduced web cluster energized time from 3 seconds to 2.5. Okay, small little reduction on the cooldown to increase his offense. Spider-Man, tough character to play. Star-Lord has an increased rocket propulsion maximum energy from 1,200 to 1,800. Oh my goodness, buddy. That's a lot. That's 50% increase on the energy for his fly, I believe. Yes, his fly. So a cool tech you can do with Star-Lord is actually making use of the burst of momentum you get at the start of it and canceling it. That's what some of the top players do. I've really been learning Star-Lord as one of my top duelist picks when I do play duelist, and he's nutso. Absolutely insane character, and I don't know if I even thought he needed a buff, honestly. One of the more top performing picks, especially with one of the more devastating ultimates, and on top of that, the support ults are going to get nerfed here in this next section. So I think they overjuiced my man a little bit, but I will take that to the bank. Storm is getting some readjustments. The damage fall off of Windblade at 30 meters will be changed from 70 to 60%, so a bit more damage fall off at longer range. That makes sense. Reduce Storm's damage increase from Thunder during weather control from 16% to 12%. However, the damage increase for allies within the range has been increased from 8 to 10%. I've got opinions on this, but we're just going to keep moving on. Reduce Storm's damage increase from Enhanced Thunder during weather control from 30% to 25%. Importantly, her own damage boost goes down in the enhanced aura as well just in general, her wind blades at range, and then the normal aura gets its power shifted a bit towards teammate damage. This entire mechanic, I don't know. I kind of want a Storm rework. Like, in general, I don't want the characters reworked in this game, but I'm not a huge fan of Storm's mechanics because I think it's just too much vague stats that it's hard to see the impact of, and giving it more damage to your team, it just doesn't feel great, even if it is effective and helpful and all of that. Storm, I think, is one of the worst designed characters in the game, actually, because she was either too weak and inflexible and just kind of team dependent before, and now they're rebalancing her to be more towards that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll take a look at Storm another day, which I would be very happy to do for an extended period of time. Strategist, on to Adam Warlock. Increase the damage of quantum magic from 55 to 60. Additionally, the damage fall off at 40 meters will be changed from 50 to 60%. So more base damage, a little more range damage. I think his poking and dueling, it's going to start to look a little bit better, almost like a DPS. I mean, it's getting near there. Granted, some of the range DPS got better too, so it's not like you're going to be better than a Hela, but both of them are better together. You know, he feels kind of similar to her damage, just in like a weaker support version. But increase the healing amount provided by Soul Bond to linked allies from 10 a second to 15 a second. Okay, Adam Warlock getting some key buffs there, especially with Star-Lord getting a buff as well. That's one of my more favorite team-ups in the game, so look out, y'all. Cloak and Dagger has increased the cost to activate her ultimate from 3,400 to 4,000. The healing amount of each segment will be increased up to 250 a second, but the duration goes down to 8 seconds, and the pause time between segments decrease down by like a third of a second. So that means there's actually less window to punish her when she's in the ultimate, you know, using burst damage to hit her as she's casting the different lanes. So Magneto's gonna have a harder time launching his ultimate at her, but the healing from each segment will not stack when overlapping. Only one healing effect is applied. Additionally, camera control is unlocked during the activation of Eternal Bond, which will help you actually navigate as you're moving around. You're probably going to want to make sure you're using it a little bit more offensively now that you can't healing stack it. I think that's a little bit more interesting for me because Cloak and Dagger's offense is kind of middling, you know? I mean, all the supports aren't very offensive in Marvel Rivals in general, but using her ultimate to go deep now is going to, I think, be a bit of the better play as opposed to just stacking a bunch of heals and sustaining on point, especially when you're down members. Like, I'm not a huge fan of support ults just sustaining you through a disadvantage. I kind of prefer them to make a play or directly counter something. I prefer, actually, the OP support ults of Season 0 to the OP Cloak and Dagger ult from Season 1. So them rearranging it, I kind of like this, I think. I don't want it to just... Anytime you switch something to be more offensive as opposed to just stats on healing, I'm a fan of that personally, but we'll see what Cloak and Daggers feel about that. Invisible Woman, we're reducing the frequency of her ultimate where the cost now goes up to 4,300. No other changes there. Susan, a high performing character, and ults costing a little bit more means that she's going to be less effective overall, considering stalling for your ultimate is part of the reason why multi-support was so good, because you sort of would just heal and sustain and live forever. All of the ults getting nerfed in this way means multi-support is a lot harder to play because you just won't have support ults up all the time. There'll be windows where you got to do something in the neutral and, well, your characters don't have offense, and not, or at least not as much as some of the others. Loki, increase the energy cost of God of Mischief, his ultimate up to 4,000. Very common in the support role so far. Increased mystical missile charges from 10 to 12. So a little bit more ability to have uptime in the neutral, but a harder to charge ults. Honestly, I think this is a very good patch overall. There's very few things I'm looking at where I feel, wow, why did they do that? Which is how I felt at Season 1, but Season 1.5, just nerfing support ults in general, I think that's good. I think you're still going to have impactful ults, but they just won't dominate the game anymore. So I look forward to that. Luna Snow, same thing, 4,500 on Fate of Both Worlds, her ultimate ability, a little bit more expensive. So it's these numbers sometimes are hard to understand because I assume it works in the same way that it does in Overwatch, where while yes, it has an inherent value you're trying to reach, each character reaches those values differently because usually it's based on the damage and healing and stats that they're outputting in order to reach it. So whether this is 4,500, this is 4,300, it kind of doesn't mean anything because the rate that you can farm it is based on your character as well. All right, changes to the team ups now. Atlas Bond. Did you know that Iron Fist and Luna Snow had a team up? Now they increased the healing amount on Frozen Chi from 50 to 75. I actually legit forgot that this was a pickable one. And the slow effect on enemies from 20 to 30%. I think also as well with Iron Fist trying to be more of a playstyle that we already know, like he's Wolverine-ish with the percentage-based damage. Also, he's the type of flanker character that Luna Stone loves to play with because giving a snowflake to a flanker is one of the best ways to use it. So the more the game kind of went down a lane into a big brawl where the tank and frontline support fight was just healing stacking all together, Luna actually looks a lot worse. Whereas Luna's pretty good as one of the top supports in like a 2-2-2 because she can heal from range while healing a teammate and then defends herself pretty decently as well. Like as far as supports go, she's one of the better duelists considering she has a freeze ball to protect herself. So therefore you don't necessarily need a teammate to be stacking on you to protect you or fight with you or get value because you are kind of a value turret in your own. Dimensional Shortcut. This is a fun one, giving recall to a lot of the flanker heroes if you're running a triple flanker, triple DPS lineup. Kind of rare to see, but when you do see it, it's pretty nuts. Reduce the rewind time for Psionic Disc from 5 to 3 seconds. Additionally, the conversion ratio of lost health to blue armor will be increased from 0.5 to 0.8. Reduce the rewind time for Wakanda Master from 5 second to 3 second. Additionally, the conversion ratio of lost health to blue armor will increase from 0.5 to 0.8. Those numbers seem small, but quite important. This is one of those changes where I think it changes the personality, and I'm not so sure if it's entirely a buff or a nerf. So what this means is, rather than going back 5 seconds in time, which means you're just out of the play entirely, you know, because you ran in from super deep and you're going to go from one spawn to the next with that recall, essentially rewind time. But you'll be more, you want to use it to take damage and get your blue health more so, where it's going to convert rather than 50% of your lost health into blue health. It's going to do that at 80%. But because you're rewinding back 3 seconds only, you're going to be right back into the fight again, which I'm not so sure if is a pro or a con. It's going to kind of depend, I suppose. I think the super deep flanks that I've seen Black Panther go on with this ability are less viable. But as far as overall stats, like you'll want to use it in a big team fight more often. So maybe a bit worse playing the way I think multi DPS wants to play, frankly, super flanking hard, like just trying to isolate everything on the map way deep, never let them set up, never let them take any space, and just constantly be flanking. Now it'll bring you closer to the team, which this team up, by the nature of what it is, you're playing Magik, Black Panther, and Psylocke. Those characters don't want to all be deathballing together, and now they're all kind of brought together a little more when they're using the rewind. But it's such an oppressive ability that it's a little tough for them to balance, I would assume. Now the team up that everybody cares about, Gamma Charge, the team up with Hulk, increasing Iron Man's potential, goes from 220 damage a second, oh my goodness, that's so insane, to just 200. So it's only 10 better than the Overdrive version. So that's kind of small. That's more close to other team ups, you know, like I look at Captain America's team up, which gives him extra damage, and it's like, I don't know, 10 or 15 extra damage. Not a huge deal, but having any bit of extra stats on any of these things, of course, changes breakpoint, so it ends up mattering a lot. And reduced Hulk's team up anchor health from 150 to 100. Of course, this is just for the remainder of season 1. The team ups will be changing in season 2. Lunar Force. This is with Cloak and Dagger and Moon Knight. The full moon new effect has continuously heal Moon Knight for 25 health per second while within the effect area. This is the one that makes him go invisible, and it has caught me out personally. This is one of the ones you don't see all too often, but because both of these characters were getting played more, they started to be useful. So I think as well, with Cloak and Dagger going down a little bit in value, Moon Knight going down a little bit in value, they kind of wanted to give it elsewhere in his kit, because this seems pretty strong. It wasn't the team up that I thought was weak. It was one of the more reliable ones, because he goes invisible, and so it's hard to fight him when he's in there, and then he pops out and uses his Ankhs to burst something and hides away, and then pops his whole, like, kind of a wacky character, Moon Knight. Very boomer bust, I think. So the next one is Symbiote Bond, the last one for the patch notes. Penny Parker and Spider-Man will enjoy enhanced survivability thanks to the suit armor expulsion enhancements. Reduce Spider-Man's suit expulsion duration from 4 seconds to just 1, but replace 50% damage reduction effect with a new invincibility effect during the duration. Oh my goodness. He gets a Iron Fist block. No way, dude. So it's only 1 second, but it's a frame. Oh my god. Invulnerability frame on Spider-Man. Okay, that is nuts. Now, reduce Penny Parker's armor expulsion radius from 4 seconds to 2 seconds, and now it's not 50% damage reduction. She also gets the invincibility frames, but hers are 2 seconds. Spider-Man's is 1. Oh my god, that is incredibly strong, man. We might have just made Necros be able to play Spider-Man. I can't believe that. That is so incredibly strong. It's only 1 second, but I honestly think this makes Spider-Man legit insane, because I already think Venom is highly underrated. He just got buffs. The multi-support meta is down. Oh my gosh, guys, look out. All right, we got to dig into these other new characters being added as well, though. That adds a wrinkle to the entire metagame. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. Don't forget to click subscribe and the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. Oh man, I can't wait to jump into some of this new Marvel Rivals meta. I'll see you guys next time.